Hey everyone, I'm back again with another driving video. And today I'm going to be driving with the Epilog Sidecar. I have a previous video, well actually a few videos, where I unbox it and also install it. And today we're finally going to be driving it. And hopefully on this drive I can experience a mix of driving conditions like highway right now, and hopefully during that highway drive I can also experience some stop and go. I timed it so that we're leaving around noontime so that we can hopefully capture some of the lunch hour rush. But we'll never know. Either way, I've just entered the highway. What I'll do is initiate my cruise control system, and all it's doing is that it's actually just preparing to be turned on. And right now I'm still the one steering, I'm still the one pressing the gas as well. But when I press set, it will now start driving on its own. Probably should have signaled there, but oh well. And what I'm going to do is actually stress out the system by driving in the very far right lane. And I'm saying it's stressful because you'll see this right now, someone got in front of us. They're probably going to be exiting in this next exit coming up. And we're also going to be experiencing a lot of people coming into the highway as well. And we can also see if it'll follow that person. See, it kind of did, but then it veered back. But that's kind of normal. You'll see even other systems like OpenPilot with Comma.ai do the same thing. It's not often, but it still does happen. If you check out their driving experience like feedback forum or Discord, you'll see people still kind of talking about it even to this day. And just for background, the car I'm driving today is a 2020 RAV4. It's a Toyota, obviously, and it's a hybrid. What's also interesting is that my specific car has blind spot monitoring, and systems like the Epilog Sidecar, along with Comma devices and other third-party devices that use OpenPilot, can actually utilize a portion of the blind spot monitoring that's built into my car. It's not the most reliable, but it does actually kind of talk to the system, and maybe when I have the opportunity I'll show you what I mean about that. See, once again it kind of tried to follow that car exiting because the brains behind this system that kind of goes in between the car and the steering wheel is that it will kind of ignore the lane lines and actually just kind of follow the behavior that we're seeing in front of us. Okay, this truck's driving a little slow, so I'm gonna do an automated lane change or assist lane change. So what I did there was just I turned on the turn signals and then nudged my wheel, and it moved over on its own. And obviously I was the one who had to do the shoulder check and also checked all my mirrors to make sure that the lane was actually clear. I'm gonna bump up my speed here. Right now I have it set at 68, but I'm gonna go to like 72. All right. And I did talk about how I wanted to stress the system out, and basically if you don't want to stress out the system, the middle lane of the highway is the best place to be, because obviously you won't see people exiting, and it's very rare that you'll have people kind of moving in front of you, and for the most part the lane lines are fairly consistent. Got a policeman to my left coming up. but so far it's driving just as I expected to drive on the highway. As you've noticed, besides me nudging the wheel to do a lane change, I haven't touched the wheel this entire time. I'm hovering my foot over the gas. I'm not actually pressing the gas, but the car itself is handling all the gas, brake, and steering at this moment, and it's doing a pretty good job. Like, I feel like I'm centered in the lane, and obviously I've been hands-free this entire time. This is not the straightest highway, and that's why I chose it, because it does have some straightaways, but at the same time it has some curves to it. And just right now we passed over like a little crest, and so we do have some slight elevation changes, and it's also pretty rough, so you'll notice that the car's bouncing around a lot, and it'll do it right now right before this little curve. And so it's a good way to test out the system to see how it reacts in certain conditions like this. And I'm a little bummed because I thought we would actually hit some traffic back there. We normally do, but today I guess it's pretty free flowing. And this stretch of highway is going to be ending fairly soon, and what I'll do is I'll actually exit and take the system on the street to kind of give you a sense of how it might react in on like surface roads. And so actually right now we're kind of hitting some slowdown, and my car did notice that this SUV in front slowed down quite a bit, and so it slowed down with it, which is a good thing. So I mean, obviously I didn't do any of that, which is nice. And let's see, okay, I thought this, oh, there he goes. And so right now this guy cut us off. I did not brake, and obviously the system handled the braking for me. That guy's a goober. Really shouldn't have done that, but what can we do? It's a good thing. Maybe it's good that he did do it for the example of the system, because it is nice to know that it can capture some of those cut-ins just like that. A little scary. I know that if you've never used a system like this before, that probably would have freaked you out, but I've been using open pilot devices for quite some time now. I believe it's been almost 6 years, and so I am quite familiar with how things can act. But at the same time, watching the playback, I'm sure I probably put my hand over the wheel just because it's not the most relaxing feeling to have someone cut you off like that, with or without a system. But I did kind of anticipate it because he was driving a little weird. Yeah, it's a weirdo. I'm gonna do a lane change, and so one little neat trick you can do so you don't have to touch the blinker stock too long is to do like a half blinker and then nudge, and then it'll move over. And because I did like a half blinker, I don't have to like turn it off. It just turned itself off because it's like a temporary blink. And but during that time though, you can still do the automated lane change like you saw, where I just kind of nudged it. And right now I'm going to be exiting and trying out some surface streets, and hopefully it does well enough on it. And this is a fairly like large bend in the highway, so we're taking it around 60 miles an hour. I did feel kind of like a wavering, but that's like not that bad. I'm gonna signal, give a little nudge. Oops, okay, good. Oh no, I don't know what it's doing. So okay, it might have stayed in the lane, but I wasn't quite sure. I also have a car to my right. Again, you want to be in control at all times. And normally what I do is like, I kind of lane change into the exit. But that one didn't feel that good. Maybe we were going too fast, who knows. So right now I'm the one doing the driving. You heard a little chime where I disengaged it. And now I'm gonna turn it back on. But let's see if it'll make this corner. No, it won't. It's going a little too fast. Maybe I set it too fast, I'm not sure. Either way, that was not successful. So I'm gonna reactivate it, but I'm gonna bump up the speed because right now we're going 30 miles an hour. I think the speed limit here is around like 35. So I'm gonna do like 35. All right, so again, now the car is controlling itself, and we do have some like winding areas here. We've got some like cones to the right, and it handled that fairly well. And we got some pedestrians walking around, and again, I think it's around lunchtime, so people should be on their breaks. But so far, it's doing this pretty well. I'm gonna bump it up to 40. Maybe the speed limit's 40 here. It feels like a 40 area. I could be wrong. I haven't seen a speed limit, or maybe I wasn't paying attention. But we're just going through, nice and easy. And this system does not have, hold on, I need to make sure that it sees the car. I don't think it will. Okay, it did not see this stopped car. But that's totally normal. I mean, it was during a bend and it didn't quite see it. I'm silent right now because I'm wondering, actually, I'm assuming that if Epilog Sidecar had the same feature that normal Comma devices has, where you can enable the experimental mode, it likely would have slowed down for that enough so that it would stop for this car. But that's also a guess. I don't know how that'll be. We've got a Waymo over there. Right, so the speed limit is actually 35. Okay, so now that we know, I'm gonna still maintain the 40 miles an hour just to see how it reacts. We also have a lead car now. He's gonna be kind of leading the way in terms of how fast we want to go. And he is going around 38, 37. But this is a pretty tight situation, and the system is handling it fairly well. Like, I'm not pressing the gas, I'm not braking, I'm not steering, and it's kind of handling it all. And so he's slowing down. I'm assuming he's going to be reaching his destination, or maybe he's slowing down in anticipation for this crosswalk over here. I'm not sure. I'm going to just keep myself ready as well. So I do see some people, but they're not at the crosswalk. Perfect. Not breaking any laws, so that's good. And we're just following along on this surface road, and obviously it's not a straight road, but it is quite tight in my opinion. And the system seems to be handling it pretty well. Like, we have an island over here that we definitely don't want to hit. We've got tire marks on the island, so other people have already hit it, and we did not, so that's already a win. So more tire marks over there, and we are just cruising along behind this person here, and the system of Epilog is handling it pretty well. Right, and I think this is the end of this road, so let me see if I can do a U-turn here and then go back. I just canceled it, and I think I can do a oh no U-turns here. Okay, or we're kind of trapped here then. Or maybe what I'll do is this illegal maneuver where I leave, and I think I can make it past this pedestrian. I think I can. And we'll take it to actual city streets, maybe. I wasn't really planning on this, but let's see how it goes. So I think the speed limit here should be around like 40. So let's do 40. All right, so now we're at 40 miles an hour. And what street is this? Either way, I think if I stay on this, it'll bring me into the city. We've got a car making a right here, and my car did slow down for it. It probably didn't need to. Okay, speed limit's 45, let's go to 45. And one thing you can do that's kind of nice is that if you hold the set button, it'll actually go into increments of 5. Now, I don't know if it'll stop for this truck. Okay, it did. We were going 45 miles an hour. We had a car that was completely stopped. And normally when I'm around that speed for OpenPilot, whether it's Epilog using OpenPilot or it's Comma using OpenPilot, you really don't want to trust or rely or expect it to stop when it's going over 45 miles an hour, because the model, the AI, or whatever you want to call it, really can't do that very well. I know some people will say like, oh, it stopped for me before. I mean, I've had it stop around 50 miles an hour too, but you are really playing with fire once you're around that 45-mile-an-hour spot. So if you are considering a system like this, just keep that in mind. Like, yes, it does utilize the radar. Yes, it does have computer vision to determine how fast it should go, but it is really not something to rely on once you get over a certain speed, which is around like 40 to 45 miles an hour. You are really gambling at that point. But it handled that fairly well, so I'll give it that. I was a little nervous, but it did it. Alright, so now we're just, again, we're kind of on surface streets here. We're not really within the city yet, but I think we should be getting in there soon. Actually, don't really know where I'm at right now, but we'll figure out. We have Google Maps, we need to. But it's good. Like, I mean, now I'm lost, kind of, but we'll get a kind of a feel of how the system works. Actually, I know where we're at. This is the PayPal building, and so the highway that we were on is to my right. Okay, we're at 45 miles an hour now, and we do have some stopped cars again, and my hands are a little sweaty. It should see it. Should. Okay, it did see it, but you can see just how late it actually reacts to that, and that's not unique to the Epilog Sidecar. If I were still using my Comma C3X, my Comma C3, my Comma 2, it kind of behaves the same way. Unless you're using the experimental mode, then it actually, when it works, it'll work really well in that situation. But that's only when it works. And so the experimental mode in like stock open pilot with Comma hardware, the experimental mode is, again, they call it experimental mode for a reason. It is just not reliable. It is not trustworthy. And that's why, yes, the Epilog Sidecar does use open pilot, and yes, they probably could turn on experimental mode, but I am very glad that they do not, because I guess I can take some time to talk about the difference between Epilog and Comma devices. I would say that if you're a person who is not very technical, who doesn't know how to code, or doesn't understand code, or doesn't want to learn how to code, this is the device for you. Now, you could get away with never coding with a Comma product. However, you kind of, well, first off, you will be paying more for it, with not that much benefit, in my opinion. Hold on one second, actually, I think I may need to move over. Do I need to move over is the question. I actually don't know. Okay, I can go straight. I think I'm good. Okay, I think I'm good. Okay, so going back again. So I would really recommend the Epilog Sidecar for people who aren't very technical, because you could just basically just use it and not have to worry about like setting up like a GitHub or like, again, like fiddling with it too often. And so right now, like when I set it up, I did have to install an app and run through a software installation, but beyond that though, I don't really have to do anything. Like, there's no screen for me to look at to get distracted with. The information on the Comma, honestly, is kind of redundant, because your car dash should actually have the same information for the most part. If you're familiar with the products from Comma and Open Pilot, and if you peruse like their Discord, hold on, there's a stopped car here. How's it gonna handle it? It handled that pretty well. It actually kind of nudged me to the left a little bit. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, so the Comma hardware is not the most robust. Like every one I've had has broken. My Comma C3X has not broken yet, but I mean, I think it's only a matter of time. And I bring that up because sometimes people on the Discord, the screen on their Comma devices die. But then sometimes they'll like kind of say, hey, like it's been dead for a while, but it's still working. But I found I don't need the screen, and honestly, that's kind of how I feel about the system. All you know, all said and done, because without a screen, I don't really feel like my experience has like regressed or gotten worse. If anything, I think it's safer because it's one less thing for me to get distracted from. You know, you've got your middle monitor here, you've got your dash, and adding on like another screen is just kind of not the best, especially when you're driving. I know that if you use a certain fork or certain forks, you can actually have it so that the screen turns off automatically, but then now you just have this kind of dangling device that's like turned off. And I say that, obviously I have a dash cam here where the screen turns off automatically, so I can't, you know, maybe being hypocritical, but what can you say? You'll notice, actually, going back to the driving, that car in front of us moved forward, and I did not press the gas. The car did it on its own. You'll notice that it actually took a while for it to move forward. Now, that has actually been a complaint of mine, not with just Epilog Sidecar, but with Comma for a long time. If you check out the rest of my videos in my channel, I've been covering OpenPilot and Comma devices for quite some time, and basically the acceleration has always been kind of a gripe with the system. And to be honest, though, it's not really a fault of Comma, OpenPilot, or Epilog Sidecar, because the commands that the device is giving to the car are still limited by the limitations of the car itself. Like, for instance, the car's moving, but I am not, and so it's taking quite a while for it to move. And that's actually part of the Toyota behavior. They do gate how fast it accelerates before or after a car in front of it has moved, and that's really just for safety reasons, because you don't really want to be accelerating right away usually, because if that person brakes in front of you, then you have to brake kind of harshly, and it is a limitation of the car itself, and that also goes along with the steering. Like I know that I attempted that left hand turn and it did not make it, and you know, you could argue that, oh, like the steering wheel wasn't strong enough, and the answer is yes, because the car itself limits how much power is given to the steering wheel. Now, I mean, I have pretty small arms, but I mean, I can yank this wheel pretty hard to the point where I could probably flip it on the highway, and the motor that's inside this steering wheel is probably like 5 times stronger than I think it might be like half a horsepower or something like that, and that's quite a lot. Like that can like flip a car easily. And so that the safety restraints within the car, the limitations are there to prevent that, because I mean, if you were to fully unlock and have access to all the power of this steering wheel, you could get yourself in a lot of trouble. Because as good as the software that OpenPilot is, it still needs those safety limits, because sometimes like the software will want to do weird behaviors, and it'll ask for a lot of torque on the wheel to make a turn, for instance, or a maneuver. And if this didn't have any limitations, my goodness, that would be the scariest thing. Now, my other car is a Tesla Model 3, and obviously I've tried out the default autopilot on there, and then I've also done the trials for the FSD. And if you've ever been in that car and tried out those systems, you'll know just how much power the steering wheel can put and influence the actual turning. And oftentimes it is quite scary, and even that has limitations built in already, so I can't imagine if it was fully unlocked, that would just be a nightmare. Okay, so it did turn yellow, but I think I'm good. I mean, it did turn red while I was in it, so technically I guess if a cop was there, they could pull me over, but what can we do? I took a little risk there. We're still on this like kind of city-ish street, so we're not really within downtown. I live in San Jose, California. I think if I were to move over a little more, we could get really downtown proper, but this is still pretty, like, I think this is a good indication of how it would react on like city streets still, though, because it is still quite tight. There is a lot of like changes to the lane marking, and right now I do feel like I'm hugging the left a little more than I want to, but that's also because the car in front of us is also hugging a little left, just because that's the way the lanes kind of diverged. And hopefully we center back in. One thing you will need to know is that the way that OpenPilot works, it is heavily influenced by the car in front of you, and so theoretically the car can work without any lane markings whatsoever, and it'll do that based on the surroundings, but if there is a car in front of you, it'll use that as sort of like an anchor to how it decides where it wants to be positioned within the lane. So keep that in mind. If you are following someone who is like maybe drunk or on their phone and they're hugging a portion of the lane, it's very likely that the car itself will also follow that same behavior, because sometimes it is actually the appropriate place to be in a lane. Like for instance, if there's like construction or a barrier to one side of the lane, you kind of want to be away from it, and so that's why they have implemented that, in that it will kind of be influenced by the car in front of it. However, that's always not going to be the case, right? If a driver is just not paying attention or is just a bad driver, you are going to be influenced and also following the behavior of a bad driver. And so it is kind of a double-edged sword. But I think with the way that OpenPilot has trained the software, the way that Comma has trained OpenPilot, they probably made that decision to kind of just assume that for the most part, most drivers are not going to be bad or inattentive, which is, I think, mathematically, I guess, probably the right choice. It just sucks when the math doesn't work on your part when you do have like a bad driver in front of you. And then going back to OpenPilot, and so to be clear, Epilog Sidecar does use OpenPilot, and so Comma are the ones who actually have created OpenPilot. They have captured the data sets, they have trained the models, and actually, hold on, I need to pay attention here, because I don't think I've ever driven here. Where am I? Okay, there's a stop sign here, and for sure, OpenPilot can't handle this. Even with experimental mode, like, it is just terrible. So I'm gonna disengage, and I'm gonna give this guy a double beep, I think, because I don't think they understood that this is a stop sign. Okay, so now we're gonna go. This must be new. I don't remember this train going underground. I'm really quite lost, or maybe I really just haven't been here. And oh, this is a right-hand turn only. Oh, okay. So I need to get out of here. Well, I think I have been here. Okay, never mind. I know where I'm at. Maybe I just haven't paid enough attention. How do I get back to the highway? The highway is right in front of me right now. I'm gonna go left, and let's continue on to this city driving, because even though Epilog Sidecar, you're only really supposed to be using on the highway. You really shouldn't be using on the streets. There's way too many like factors to kind of have things go bad. And so it is kind of fun, interesting to find out how it does react on city streets just like this, because obviously there's just a lot going on. Like obviously there's a guy with his dog on his bike. But anyways, going back to what I was talking about. Yes, so Comma trains OpenPilot. The data set though is completely open source, and so if you go to their GitHub, you can actually access like I don't think it's a million, but it's definitely thousands of data. Like, and when I say data, I'm talking about photos of streets. Along with that, there's also I think there's also data of like how fast the car was going, what was the driver inputting into that data. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it is up there. But for the most part, it really is just photos, so that the system can learn visually, like what is a street, what is a road, what is a highway, and it also determines like where was the driver in every situation, and that's how it actually determines how it steers. And so I'm gonna reactivate right now. God, this is kind of really clear. This is kind of like real city driving. Obviously this is not New York. I would never probably ever use OpenPilot in New York. Just recently I actually took a trip to Brazil, and there was an OpenPilot user, I believe his name is Alex, and he lives in Brazil and uses OpenPilot, and I don't know how he does that. It handled that cut in fairly well, because the driving in Brazil is just nutso. But maybe he doesn't live where I visited, because I visited Sao Paulo, and the traffic there, it is on another level. And okay, I have to brake here because obviously the system won't brake for stoplights. But the idea of using OpenPilot in Brazil is kind of wild, because there's some wild driving there. They have insane traffic. Like, we have traffic in the Bay Area, but for the most part, you could plan your day around it. But what I found in Brazil is that it is just traffic no matter what time of the day, where you're going. It's a little wild out there. And it's hard to talk while I'm doing this driving. I forgot that I'm talking about okay, so training the data. Okay, now I don't think that I am just hitting all the lights here with no lead car. I don't believe that Epilog has trained their own model. Now they haven't told me if they had, and because what they've told me so far, like, I actually emailed them when I got this product and asked them right away, like, hey, I know that for sure my viewers are going to be asking, what model are you using? And their answer was they don't really want to say, and basically they think that it's not really important. They think that it's basically it's more important to find out like how the car drives versus like what model you're using, right? Because I mean, you can get a little lost in the whole model discussion. I think I can make a right here to hit the highway. Hold on one second. Never mind, I'm not doing it. We're gonna stay here. I probably should have turned it on, but oh well. Anyways, going back to Epilog and the model. And so they did not tell me what model they're using. And I'm assuming they did not train their own model. So with Epilog Sidecar, they are different from Comma in that with Comma now, they have two cameras. One is more of a narrow angle lens, and the other one is like a wide angle lens, so it has a more like fish-eyed view of the world, and the other one is just more of your conventional lens. And the way the model works for that is that they kind of both use both of those cameras depending on the situation. But with Epilog Sidecar, they only have one camera. They have one fisheye camera, and the way they're handling the situations where narrow versus wide is that I believe they're just cropping the image that's coming from their camera here, and for the most part I think it's working, but I also say that knowing that, hold on a second, this is a very peculiar situation here. I'm actually going to activate it. No, I'm not. Actually, no, this is not. I need to kind of hug the left here a little bit. There's no way it would have done that properly. But I mean, this is if you want to talk about stressing out the system, this is it. Speed limit's at 25, so let's go to 25. Got a bunch of cones everywhere. Got pedestrians jaywalking. We're getting cut off. We are driving slow. I mean, it is 25. Ooh, actually, that's not a jaywalk. That is actually a crosswalk. Okay. It's good to know. Now, ooh, we've got this little merge lane here. I'm gonna let him go. I didn't realize that was there. I was too focused on the signage for the highway. Okay, I'm gonna reactivate it because we do have a lead car and we should be able to navigate this pretty easily. Because I don't see it turning. I swear I'll continue talking about the model once we're through here. This is a little funky. All right. We're back in business. I hope. No, we're back in business. All right. So okay, speed limit's 35. We could take in the highway, but we're just gonna take the streets, I guess. We're out of the actual city now, so now we're kind of like moving back towards more of like, I guess like business or what have you. I think there's also some homes on this street too. Maybe not actually, I'm probably lying. Okay, so he's braking. No, we really braked there. We've got someone jaywalking to my right or my left. And wow, I think we're really stressing out the system here. I think this is good though. I mean, we're kind of getting a feel of how it will react in places it really shouldn't be, in my opinion. I'm gonna slow it down to like 28. It says 25 is the speed limit because of all the construction. Let's do 28. What was I talking about with the model? Either way, so yes, Epilog uses OpenPilot. Which model it's using, I don't have an answer for that. I can speculate though. So Epilog Sidecar did tell me that they use both new code and old code. Which parts of the code that is, I'm not really sure. But one thing that I can be sure of is that a portion of the code is a little older than like 9 or OpenPilot version 0.9.7, I believe. And so, I mean, the model could be newer, but they have not ingested code after that. In regards to one thing I asked them for, which is basically in OpenPilot now you can change the behavior of how it accelerates and brakes. And I think that was introduced in version 0.9.7. And I think the feature had been there already, but you had to change it within the screen. But in the new version of OpenPilot, there's a button on my steering wheel that can determine the follow distance from the lead car. And in stock Toyota form, there actually is like a subtle difference between the three settings, where it follows close, it follows a little further. With OpenPilot though, it's a little muddy because it's more about like acceleration profiles, and I did some testing in the past where I didn't really notice that much of a difference between the two profiles when I'm on the highway following someone. And one thing you can do is basically just like have a marker where they drive over, and you can just count how long you are away from them. And to be very honest, the time difference between myself and the lead car on the highway, depending on the setting on the steering wheel for the follow distance, it was only like half a second, and if that, and that's also me like counting in my head or counting aloud, and so there's like definitely error there. But I felt like the stock Toyota system had a more I guess discernible or noticeable difference between the three settings versus what OpenPilot was doing. Because I really do believe OpenPilot was mainly just trying to tackle the issue of acceleration, like faster acceleration or slower acceleration. However, going back to Epilog, and why I think that they have not ingested that part of the code, is that this button does nothing. So right now, if I were to be pressing this button with stock OpenPilot, I would actually be seeing the bars for the follow distance on my car changing, and it is not doing that here. And so at least for sure we know that that part of the code was not integrated into Epilog Sidecar software, and that part of the code is from 0.9.7. But that's not to say you can still exclude that code and still use a newer model. I mean, that if you're familiar with OpenPilot and the forks that some people have made, is you can actually just have like the same software, and you can kind of change the model and it'll still work just fine. And so just because they haven't included that code doesn't mean that the model is not newer than that, but that code is like one thing I can say for sure that it's not there. Or maybe it is there, but they've just disabled it, who knows. But either way though, that's one thing that did come out for me, because I want that. I've actually when I reviewed the very first version of the Epilog Sidecar, when it was still that kind of cool clamshell underneath, I did email them, and I even gave them the push request numbers for that specific line of code, and asked them, I almost like begged them, like, hey, can you please like put this into the software, because I think it would be really good. But even now with the new version of Epilog Sidecar, that is still not there. It's not the end of the world, because like I said, even the implementation within OpenPilot, you can barely tell the difference. A second there. Okay, we're good. And so it's not the end of the world. Obviously, like, even if they have not changed the code since the original version of Epilog Sidecar, it's still a very usable system. Obviously, right now you've been sitting with me here, driving around the city, and it's doing. I'm gonna gas it here because that was quite a severe slowdown. Okay, so now we're back. I've also bumped up the speed limit to 40 miles an hour, and he's gonna go, isn't he? Yeah, he's gonna go. Okay, so that was a pretty severe cut-in. Obviously, Epilog, along with the car, did their job in not hitting that person who decided it was a good choice to make that turn into the road. But you did hear the device kind of yelling at me, and so normally, actually, the car itself also has like collision avoidance, and so you'll see like the screen kind of going crazy when that does get triggered. But it looks like the collision avoidance or emergency notification for Epilog Sidecar is a little more, I guess, the word is not aggressive, but it's definitely safer in the sense that it alerted me before my car alerted me. So I think that's good. I think that's good. And the volume for the alert was pretty good. I mean, it was loud. Maybe it could be louder. I don't know. I guess no. I suppose it could be a little louder. I think like if I were blasting music right now, I'd probably want that loud. That actually does lead me to also ask, maybe I'll email Epilog about it. Like, is there a microphone inside here? Because I know that with Comma devices, they do have a microphone on there, and they have been, as of late, I forgot when they implemented it, but they now use a microphone to determine how loud some of the notifications are within the device. And I think, you know, if I were playing music right at that moment and I needed to hear that that alarm, having it raise the volume would have been good. But for the most part, though, you're really not supposed to need that notification. Like, I think, like I said in my previous video, this is just level 2 self-driving. So you will need to be paying attention the entire time. And you know what? Let's actually go on the highway because I do want to test something out. There is a bend I want to take that is quite fast, and I want to see how Epilog Sidecar handles it. And this video's been going on for quite a while. I don't know if I'll break it up. I probably won't, though. Let's just upload it raw. Okay, I'm going to activate it because we're just chilling behind these stopped cars. I am going to boost up the speed to around 45 miles an hour. We are going to be entering a highway fairly soon. I think like 3 lights next. And so I'll have to bump that up even more when I get there. But going back to the model that Epilog is using, again, if this is the same model that they use when, hold on 1 second, sorry, I'm looking at the road and there is a person who is blind trying to cross, and they are absolutely okay. Good, thank goodness. I was actually debating if I want to get out of the car to help this person cross because they were crossing where there was no crosswalk, and so it's a good thing that this kind gentleman is helping them out. Because that would have been pretty bad. Well, anyways, going back to the model, that's really nice of them to do. It's probably off screen now, but anyways, yeah. So with the original Epilog Sidecar, like I did a lot of testing with that. I even drove it like from California all the way to Canada, and it was a godsend. And so is, you know, any open pilot device is going to be a godsend if you hate driving or you have really long drives on the highway. But I'm just saying that, like, the models and how they change is a little overrated in my opinion, and I think that's where I kind of agree with Sidecar, with Epilog and Sidecar, is that, like, for people who drive open pilot, well, there's a subsection of people who drive open pilot who are just obsessed and so nitpicky with what model they're using, and it almost gets a little too ridiculous in my opinion. If you want to know what I'm talking about, join their Discord and go to the Open Pilot Experience thread. And these people are quite funny in that they just nitpick like the 0.01% of something that grand scheme doesn't really matter. Like right now, you saw my wheel like slightly wiggle. Not really, but I know I've tried models myself before where, like, while it's slowing down, it'll just start wiggling and wiggling. Now, you see doing it that, you'll see some people comment on there and just like freak out about, oh my god, like my wheel wiggles. Like, even though their car didn't really like move. Like, I mean, I've had experiences where the wiggle was so severe that my car was literally swerving, but In that situation, you saw the little wiggle, but my car was still, the trajectory of the car was still straight, and so not really a big deal. But when you start nitpicking with what model you're using, there's definitely like a point of diminishing returns when it comes to the models. In my opinion, in I guess 6 years that I've been using OpenPilot and OpenPilot devices, the difference between when I first started, it was around version 7.9 or something, and that was like 6 years ago. And I believe now I've loaded the version 0.11 dot, I think just 11.0, not .1.0, which is the newest release for OpenPilot. And to be honest, again, like if you are using the system as it was designed, which is highway driving, the differences are minimal. Like you'd have to be like looking at the date. If I make it, okay, let's see if we can make this turn. It's a little wiggly. See, now it's saying that it can't. Yeah, it can't. But it's not a bad try. My wheel's almost at 90 degrees here. I mean, I can't expect that. I think if we were going a little slower, it would have been okay. But maybe it was too fast. Just go ahead and accelerate here so that we can get to highway speeds, and then I'll set the speed then. And we've been stressing the system out, so I'm going to be putting it in a lane where it's not as stressed out, which is the middle lane, like I mentioned before. Okay, so going back to the models. So this scenario right now, where I just have cruise control on, lane centering on, and I'm just driving highway, this behavior has been the same from when I started 6 years ago to what it is now. And basically any device using OpenPilot, this is what it's meant to do. And so the idea that like you want to nitpick about what model you're using is really just you're pulling, like I mean, I don't even know what the good analogy for that is, but there's only so much you can say or experience with the models, because at the end of the day, this is what you want out of the system. You just want adaptive cruise control and good lane centering. Beyond that, everything else is like icing if it works. So that's why I feel like a lot of the development for OpenPilot, it's really all kind of, I don't know. I mean, I love the work that Comma and OpenPilot have done. Don't get me wrong, but this is all you need right here. Like, again, I think I mentioned it before with my old Epilog reviews. If the software were never to be updated again, and this is what I'm stuck with, I'm fine. This has again driven me from California to Canada, there and back, and it was okay. Okay, so this is actually the band I wanted to test out. So I'm going 70 miles an hour right now, and I do have a lead car, and okay, so that kind of freaked me out because there was a bump. But for the most part, I wanted to see how it reacted right here, and it's doing pretty good. Okay, so that's pretty good. Like I'm actually feeling some G's right now in how fast we're taking this curve. And again, if this model was like 0.9, I would never have known the difference, because it did its job, and that's all you can really ask for. Now I'm gonna change lanes here. Okay, so in that situation, actually, I thought that the device would chime, because usually it chimes if I'm trying to do like a lane change with the blinker, and the blind spot monitoring is activated, it usually makes a little chime for me, but I didn't do it in that situation. And I think that goes back to what I'm saying before, in that, like, yes, the blind spot monitoring system of the car can talk with the device and sometimes even influence it, whether that's through an auditory notification. Hold on, I'm gonna actually, fast are we going here? You know, I'm gonna stop and be a defensive driver here, and then reactivate it now. Okay. All right. So going back to blind spot monitoring, it can influence it, but again, just unreliable. So a lot of these like cool features that like some cars might have, all kind of a wash when it comes down to it, because sometimes they're not the most reliable. And then, so again, going back to my point about the model and Epilog and Comma, you should really only care about what it does in that middle lane of the highway, where you just care about it staying at a safe distance from the car in front of you and staying centered in the lane. And that is the bread and butter of what any of these open pilot systems should be doing. And everything else, like, if you can't get that right, like, forget everything else. And that's why I have mixed feelings about having experimental mode on this device, because like, I don't care if it can stop or sometimes stop at a stoplight or a stop sign when it can't even like go at a proper speed on the highway, or it can't like center properly sometimes. Like, if you go to the Discord for the Open Pilot experience, you'll see a lot of people still complaining about lane hugging or lane position. And so you really are like kind of nitpicking little things that don't really matter when we start like really talking about the models and etc. And so again, to that point, I think if you do care about nitpicking about little wiggles or like being an inch off on the lane centering, I'm gonna slow down actually. I'm gonna go to like 67. Okay. Then yeah, maybe the Comma device is for you. Like, the fact that like it's open source and you like that, then get Comma. But if you don't care about open source, if you don't care about what's actually happening under the hood when you're just wanting to drive on the highway and have it center and have it doing the adaptive cruise control properly, then who cares? Like, I don't care that it's not open source. Like, I guess I care in a sense that maybe like I want Epilog to succeed, I want Comma to succeed so that this device keeps running for as long as it can. But in terms of like actually fiddling with the software, I don't think that the majority of people who want an enhanced self-driving experience in their stock car really care about that. And that's why I do think that if you're not technically inclined, like, there's, in my opinion, very little reason to go with something like Comma when the Epilog Sidecar exists. I'm gonna actually follow this car right here. I know where I'm at. Yeah, I know where I'm at. Okay. And so, yeah. So I think that the idea of not knowing what model's being used is a little overblown. I think it's also funny, like, there's some users who are very nitpicky about the model that Open Pilot is using, and but then at the same time, like, all the cars that are being used for this system are going to behave differently. Like, my car has I would argue above average like torque for how much the steering wheel can be influenced and used. I'm gonna gas here actually, and because I want to stay behind this van and see if I can make this left-hand turn. Yeah, it wants me to take over, so I'm gassing. I didn't touch the steering wheel, but it actually did that sort of well. Could have been better, but I mean, not bad. Again, that's again, so that's a good example. So I think that my car has above average turning capability in terms of like what the car will allow that wheel to turn. Excuse me. But if your car cannot do that, like you testing out models with a car that has like very weak steering is, I don't know how useful it is for that person or for others also reading about it. Like, if your car can barely make highway bends, what point is it to, I guess, evaluate a model when you can't even like fulfill the bread and butter of it? Like, oh, the car, hold on, this is way too fast for this, but you know, I've tested this once with Sunny Pilot, this roundabout, and funny enough, what happened there? What is happening here? But funny enough, see right now I'm actually cutting into it, not out, and so the steering isn't the issue there. Or sorry, the steering power isn't the issue there. It's more about the decision making of the AI or the model. That was really weird. Maybe I caused that issue when I don't know what happened there. Maybe I did cause that issue. I probably did, actually. I'm gonna look back on this and be like super embarrassed now. Because I did see that car. They were coming around. Oh, you know what? Maybe it was my problem because I think I assumed that they were gonna be going straight. But either way, that was a little weird situation. But you did notice that when I did have it activated within that roundabout, it wasn't veering out, which showed that there's not enough steering like power to keep it within the actual roundabout. It was actually turning into it because it was putting too much power into it, and so one can assume that basically the model that's controlling the steering is actually asking for too much steering within that, and so you are facing this issue of the decisions of the model in the system along with the limitations of your car. And so I mean, again, so nitpicking the model in situations like that is constructive if you are like developing the system, but for the user I think it's useless because like you really don't want to be using system, you don't want to be using OpenPilot in scenarios like that. It really is meant for scenarios like this where it's just nice and calm and you are in control, and there isn't anything that's going to tax like how much you're going to be steering, etc. And so when you start nitpicking the model in situations like that, I mean, I used to do that. If you watch my older videos, like you'll see me like going through mountain passes and etc. And eventually you do get an understanding of, first off, like how much your car can take, and then also like when OpenPilot, the brains behind all of this, like makes decisions that are like not going to be in line with what's actually safe or like what's like human behavior. And I think a lot of that is really just like when you're exceeding the expectations of what OpenPilot is designed for. And so that was really long-winded, but basically whatever model they're using right now within Epilog, if they don't change it, I'm okay personally, and I'm saying that again from someone who's been using these systems for over 6 years or 5 years, whatever, what have you. And I think, I mean, when it comes down to it, like this is not a jab at Comma who makes OpenPilot. If anything, that just like the idea that the system can still work in the bread and butter situations of a highway, and it's still working the same, or it's not the same, but basically working well enough for me to use, is just a testament to how good their model is, and so the incremental changes they've had aren't really what's happening. Aren't something that like most users need to really care about. Obviously, they come out with new releases like I think like every half year or so. It depends really on their cadence, but I'm gonna activate it here in this like unmarked road. But the thing is, again, like for the highway driving, when they release a new model for everyone to use, I don't trust it. Yeah, there's no lane markings here, so we're really at the mercy of what the brains of this operation thinks it's gonna do. But anyways, go back to the models. They release a new one for every version they come out with, but what people don't see is that they actually have like created so many in between each release that like users will try out and again nitpick about this and that. At the end of the day, some of that stuff is even ignored, so you're just left with whatever Comma decides they want to release with. And so from an end user who doesn't want to do any of the development work, then it doesn't really matter to you. Like this will still get you on the highway and steer for you and do gas and brake for you, and that's what it's made for. Now if I wanted, hold on, I'm gonna actually take over right now, but it did fairly well in that unmarked situation. Now if you want it to do more than that, just expect to be disappointed, because the bread and butter is just highway. Like you can maybe do the situation. I mean, it did, but like if it were to fail right now, like no one should be shocked, because this is not really what it's meant for. It's really meant for a highway aid, and you should just treat it as that. And that's why I think that Epilog is great from like more of a user focused like customer and not a development customer. And so I think I'm gonna end it there. I do want to grab some food. I'm actually starving. I think I drove around for like an hour. I'm gonna upload this like without any editing, I think. Let's see how it goes. But that was my drive with the Epilog Sidecar. I think we kind of put it through a lot of things. And if you want to see more of this content, let me know. And specifically, if there's things that you want me to test out, I'll try. In my previous video, I did a test where I pretended to fall asleep on the wheel and to see how it would react. And see, you saw a little wiggling there, but I mean, not the end of the world. Yeah, so in my previous videos, I did ones where I pretended to fall asleep to see how it would react. I did some night drives with it, but yeah, so in the comments, let me know what you want to see, and I will see if I can do them. But for now, if you've stuck around this long, I'll give you my thanks. And if you're not asleep yet, thank you. But if you are asleep, hopefully you're having good sleep. I know that some of my comments in the past have said that they actually use my videos to fall asleep to, and I'll take that as a compliment, you know, because I actually personally also have channels that I follow where I specifically do just that, and so I'm not going to take any offense if you use my content for a sleeping aid. Okay, I'm gonna actually gas it here, and all right, and I think that's kind of what I want to cover. Drop the speed down to 30, and we'll end this video at this park. And yeah, I think for the most part though, I'm really happy with the Epilog Sidecar right now. I mean, I expected it to do well on the highway, to do sort of okay on the city streets, and then that's exactly what it's done. And what the main thing is though, when I compare it to the Comma C3X, I am just still loving how much I can see on the windshield versus what I had in that previous device. Now, that's not to say that the same experience can be had with the Comma 4. I don't have the Comma 4, but the Comma 4, Comma has also decided that the screen really isn't that important, and so they've shrunk it down to like a near useless size. And I'm assuming the visibility is probably good on that as well. I know that the screen still hangs like below all like the actual electronics, and so I'm not sure how much it will impede visibility when it's doing that. However, it is still a very small device. I think in terms of volume, it might actually be smaller than the Epilog Sidecar, but that may be. However, because of the fact that this does not have a screen which is below the device, this might actually still have better visibility from the driver's perspective, looking onto the road and not having their vision blocked. But again, I'm only making that assumption because of what I've seen online. But I again take that with a grain of salt, because obviously I don't have the money to buy one, and I probably won't have money to buy one in a long time, and so that won't be something I can really talk on. Just for background, basically, I do have the C3X now. If you followed my little Open Pilot saga, when my Comma 3 broke, I was out of warranty. I even tried to have it repaired by a specialist, and they were able to get the components changed that I needed changed, but I think the actual like SOM or what have you was the main culprit. It just wasn't behaving properly anymore, and that's not unique to me too. Like, if you go on the Discord with people with problems with the C3 or sometimes even the C3X now, it is just a common problem that I think the hardware is just not as robust, and time will also tell about what that means for Epilog Sidecar as well too, because they are also new to the game. They've been making hardware for a long time. I've actually used Epilog hardware not related to driving in the past for many years. So they also do, like, I believe, like laser cutters and whatnot. So after coming home and listening to the audio while I was editing, I realized I was completely wrong. Epilog Sidecar used to be called Epilog Imaging Systems Incorporated, and there's a laser cutting company called Epilog Laser, and they are actually completely separate from each other. So that's my fault. I am sorry for that false information. And so, like, in the hardware space, they should be at least like, you know, they know how to make hardware. So my assumption is that they've done the same stress testing they do for their industrial hardware that they have for this device, but that's just me guessing. So we'll find out in a while, because you know, just like Comma, Epilog does give you a 1-year warranty on the hardware here. I was never able to do a long-term test for the first version of the Epilog. But for this one, I will be, because this is going to be a long-term unit that I have, and so we'll see how time treats this device. But again, thanks for watching. I'll shut up now, but there will be more to come, and make sure to comment on stuff that you want to see. So thanks a lot.